Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn, where we talk about metal rock and prog music. And this is my October 2025 album release radar. I'm going to talk about a bunch of new albums that are coming out in October 2025 that I'll be listening to. Several every week. I think at least a few each week. I forget how many there are overall, probably about 30, like one per day, really, to keep you busy throughout the month. And I'll talk about them in chronological order. So let's dive in. If you're looking for new metal rock and prog music to listen to, this is hopefully going to be a useful video for you. And also let me know down in the comments what release you're most excited for and if there's anything else that I might have missed that you think I might enjoy. So on October 3rd, we have Thrice releasing Horizons West, the 12th album by this American post-hardcore band. They have alternative rock and hard rock influences. And even though Thrice is not a band that plays in one of my three main genres that I like, my three main genres that I focus on are more prog metal, prog rock, and metalcore. They're still easily in my top 25 favorite bands of all time. They're my favorite post-hardcore band, to the point where probably five of my top 10 post-hardcore albums would probably be their albums. In particular, I love their three-album run from 2003, The Artist in the Ambulance, 2005's Vesu, and 2007's The Alchemy Index Volume 1 and 2, Fire and Water. And I feel like Thrice is kind of a progressive band. They're kind of hard to categorize in a genre. Nowadays, they've also evolved a lot over the years. Nowadays, they're more like an alternative folk rock, hard rock band, but they still have those post-hardcore roots. And every album they've made is at least very good, except maybe their debut is a little bit more on the raw screamo side since they were really young there. So I look forward to this continuation here from their last album, which was Horizons East. So this one's kind of thematically paired with that. Uh, and in terms of what to expect here, if you're not familiar with Thrice, I know the post-hardcore label might freak out some bands, but they're very different from most post-hardcore bands. In 2008, they pretty much abandoned their harsh vocals and they only really just brought them back for about one song per album starting in 2016. So the vast majority of their vocals here are clean. The songs can really be stripped back to their core to be simple songs, kind of singer-songwriter style songs with great chord progressions, melodies, and lyrics. But the band also adds in these awesome guitar parts, bass, keyboard, and drums arrangements on top of these tracks, and they use odd time signatures, and they make these seemingly simple tracks at their core become very interesting. So if that sounds good to you, check out Horizons West by Thrice. Next for October, I have Coheed and Cambria, and they're releasing a new Entities edition of their album, The Father of Make Believe. So this is kind of like a deluxe version of their album from earlier in the year, and it's progressive rock with pop punk, post-hardcore, emo, alternative rock, hard rock, and maybe even a little bit of metal and electronic influences in there. And this contains four new songs. I've checked out one of them already, Key Entity Extraction 7, Yuko the Trivial. So that was pretty cool. And I already love the full album, Father of Make Believe. And if there's four new tracks, you can bet your ass I'm gonna be checking that out. And I hope they're awesome. I have a good feeling that they will be really good. But I kind of get annoyed when bands do this whole thing where they release an album and then like within less than a year they make a deluxe version of it that has four new tracks. Like I'd rather just either put those four new tracks on your next album and get to work on your next album, or if they were meant to be part of this album, just put them out on the original album. I'm not too keen on this whole deluxe version thing. I sometimes see it as a bit of a cash grab, but I love Coheed and Cambria, so I'm going to definitely want to hear any song that they make. So I'll be checking that out. And then we've got a live album from Big Big Train called Are We Nearly There Yet? Which is they're an amazing progressive rock band from the UK. And if they're putting out a live album, they're an amazing band, so I'm going to check it out. I don't usually listen to live albums or list them, but they're a band that I just love, so I'll be checking that out. Big Big Train, are we nearly there yet? Next up, still on October 3rd here, we've got Ring Van Mobius releasing Firebrand. That is this is the what fourth album, I think, yep, by this Norwegian band, and it's progressive rock. And apparently, this will unfortunately be their last album. And I thought their third album, Commission Works Part 2, Six Drops of Poison, was an excellent album. If you're a fan of Emerson, Lake and Palmer and King Crimson, I think you'll like this band, Ring Van Mobius. The whole album, their last album, sounds like it could have been made and released in the early 70s. So they've got that really retro sound to them. So if you want to hear modern progressive rock that sounds really retro, check out Firebrand by Ring Van Mobius. Next up is one from Motorpsycho called, I want to say that's pronounced Ahsol Caravan. I don't know. Um, this is apparently a soundtrack. So not a proper studio album, but I guess like a movie or something, movie soundtrack by this band from Norway. And they're a psychedelic rock band with progressive rock, alternative rock, indie rock, jam band, uh, kind of vibes to them. Imagine they're kind of like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. They remind me a bit of them. I really enjoy the album that Motorpsycho put out earlier this year. But this is a soundtrack, so likely I'm predicting it won't be as good as their full-length studio album that came out earlier this year. I'm not usually into movie soundtrack music as much as studio albums, but I do really enjoy this band, so I plan to check this out. Couple more on October 3rd to talk about. Orbit Culture is releasing Death Above Life, the fifth album by this Swedish melodic death metal band. They've got groove metal influences. And I thought their last album, Descent from 2023, was an excellent one, and their EP, The Forgotten, was very good. So looking forward to this one based on the singles I heard. I heard The Tales of War and Death Above Life. So if you want to get a mental picture of what this band sounds like if you haven't heard them before, imagine like In Flames meets Lamb of God. It's kind of that style of music. Uh, I expect it'll be pretty solid, but probably won't be a contender for like my year-end top 50 or anything like that. And last on October 3rd, oh no, there's more. There's more on October 3rd that I want to talk about, but one of them is Hooded Menace with Lachrymose Monuments of Obscuration. And this one's orange because I've already heard it, so that's I was lucky enough to get a sneak peek at that. Uh, this is the seventh album by this Finnish death doom band, and they're on the Season of Mist label. And yeah, I'm happy that I got to hear this already. I can say it's a very good album, similar in style to their last album, The Tritonus Bell, which is also very good. I haven't heard all of their stuff. I've only really heard their last album and this one, but curious to hear more from this band in the future or dive more into their past. That's Hooded Menace with Lachrymose Monuments of Obscuration. Then on October 3rd, Taylor Swift is releasing The Life of a Showgirl, 12th album by this American pop sensation that started out with more of the country influence, still has a little bit of it, some folk and rock as well in there. I'm not a big fan of Taylor Swift, but I do like some of her songs, so I check out her work out of curiosity, since she's such a huge name. So I put it on my list. Not super enthusiastic about it, but something that I'm curious to just check out and see if there's any cool songs on it. And October 4th has a band called Times Forgotten releasing Songs of Awakening, the fifth album by this band from Costa Rica, which is progressive metal. And I don't think I've ever listened to a band from Costa Rica before. So excited to hear this. And I've been to Costa Rica. It's a beautiful place. So hopefully the music from Costa Rica can be equally beautiful. Never heard an album by Times Forgotten before, but I did listen to a single called A Light, and they're great female clean vocals on this single, genty guitar playing. So really looking forward to the full album here by Times Forgotten called Songs of Awakening. Now let's move on to October 10th. There's a bunch of awesome stuff coming out on October 10th. Greyhaven is releasing Keep It Quiet, the fourth album by this American post-hardcore band with some metalcore, progressive rock, progressive metal, southern rock influences in there. And this is a band I love. I thought their last EP, Stereo Grief from 2024, was excellent. Their last full-length album, The Bright and Beautiful World from 2022, was a near masterpiece. The singles for this new album, Burn a Miracle, Cemetery Sun, and Where the Light Leaves Us, they're all really amazing. So I'm definitely really excited for this. If you like Every Time I Die, they kind of remind me of them, plus with a little bit more of that uh, kind of fast guitar, post-hardcore emo stuff of Idola, Hail the Sun, and Dance Gavin Dance. Sounds like a mix of those bands with Every Time I Die. Yeah, that real fast guitar post-hardcore that I enjoy. And Testament is releasing Parabellum, the 14th album by this American thrash metal band. I've never been a huge fan of Testament, or really the thrash metal genre in general. Besides some of the more like progressive thrash metal bands like Vector, I enjoy, and I enjoy some select albums from Metallica and Megadeth. Um, Plus, I actually like when non-thrash metal bands dabble in thrash. I like some of the some of my favorite thrash albums of all time are like by Mr. Bungle and King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard when those bands make thrash albums. But I enjoy the singles I've heard from this ahead of time, which were Infanticide AI and Shadow People. And Testament is always just a really solid thrash metal band with great riffs and great guitar playing, great solos, cool compositions, sometimes a little bit adventurous and progressive, but maybe not enough to call them a progressive band, but cool, well-performed thrash metal that I'm going to check out. And then we have Incubus releasing Something in the Water, the ninth album by this American alternative rock band. They've got alternative metal, art rock, funk metal, pop, indie rock, and electronic influences. They have a very unique sound to them. And I remember really liking their music video from Megalomaniac. Um, I liked that song back in 2004, and I vaguely recall listening to the whole album at that time, um, plus maybe one or two others of theirs. And I liked that, but they never really made it onto my top favorite bands list, and I haven't kept up with Incubus. I haven't listened to everything they've done, but I am curious to hear more from them. I saw on Reddit that this album might get delayed. Um, to 2026. I don't know if that's true. Some sources are saying the release date is October 10th, 2025. It's been a while since their last studio album. It's from 2017, so they've been, working on this for a while. Hopefully, they're still able to keep this band going strong and there's no delays or anything like that. So check out Something in the Water by Incubus if you like Incubus or if you want that kind of throwback to early 2000s alternative rock sound with that alternative metal, funk metal stuff in there. Then on the same day, Squeaky Feet is releasing Overview Effect, the second album by this American jazz fusion band, kind of a jam band. Pretty funky, pretty progressive, pretty psychedelic, all of that mixed in together. And I thought their last album, their debut album, was very good. The single I heard from this, Irish Goodbye, was really enjoyable. So I'm looking forward to this one here from Squeaky Feet. And on the same day, October 10th, Atomic Rooster is releasing Circle the Sun, the eighth album by this band from the UK, and it's hard rock with progressive rock and blues influences. And this is their first album in over 40 years. They put one out in 1983 called Headline News, and they formed way back in 1969. So they're an old legacy band, and it's really interesting to see that they're coming back after 40 years with no studio albums. And I've actually never listened to an album by Atomic Rooster before, but I do know that Carl Palmer of ELP fame used to be in the band. So I've heard the name and I listened to the single No More and I enjoyed it. So I'm putting this on my list to check out. It's Atomic Rooster with Circle the Sun. Then Blindfolded and Led to the Woods is releasing The Hardest Thing About Being God is That No One Believes Me. Fun title for that one. And it's their fifth album. They're from New Zealand. And this is technical, dissonant, avant-garde, progressive death metal with deathcore influences. And another one where I thought their last album was very good. It's called Rejecting Obliteration from 2023. This band is intensely heavy and brutal for fans of bands like the Faceless, Obscura, and Allegiant, but with a little bit more of a genty and groovy guitar playing style than those bands. And I heard two singles from this new one ahead of time. I enjoyed those, Cafoon and Compulsion. So if you like brutal, intense, technical death metal that's dissonant and avant-garde and progressive, then check this one out by Blindfolded and Led to the Woods. Last one on my October 10th list is by Jacob Collier, and it's called The Light for Days, the sixth album by this pop rock guy from the UK. It's very kind of progressive, but not super progressive. Mixing, I guess it's more genre blending and kind of some musical virtuosity, blending soul, R&B, folk, and jazz influences in here with the pop rock and a little bit of progressive flair. And I had mixed feelings about his last album. Some of the songs that Jacob did on that were some of my favorite and best songs of the year, but some of the other ones were really annoying and irritating for me. So I hope this can be more consistently something that I can enjoy more consistently all the way through. Because if he stays at the top of his game for a whole album, he has real strong potential to put out excellent music, I think. So I'm going to check this out, The Light for Days by Jacob Collier. And now October 17th has some awesome stuff coming. We've got an Abstract Illusion releasing The Sleeping City. This might be, I'm trying to think of like what's my most anticipated. Well, there's Thrice, but yeah, there's a lot of great stuff coming, but this one I'm super excited for. I think this is gonna be, if this is as good as their last two albums, this is a strong contender to be among my top 10 albums of the year, if not my top five. Uh, So The Sleeping City by an Abstract Illusion. This will be their third album. They're from Sweden and it's atmospheric progressive death metal. And if you're a fan of Neobliviscaris, Kardashev, Persephone, Wilderun, Opeth, Xanthocroid, any bands like that, this is a band you have to hear if you haven't already. It's an Abstract Illusion with Sleeping City, and the two singles I heard ahead of time have been amazing. So I think this could be way up there in my year-end list if the whole album's that good. And then Rick Wakeman is releasing Melancholia, the 25th album by this great keyboard and piano player from the UK, from famous from his time in Yes. This is going to be instrumental progressive rock done in a classical solo piano style. And some of his solo albums in his career are prog rock, some are classical, some are more new age, ambient, and some are more straightforward, accessible rock. Some of his albums have vocals, some are instrumental, but this one apparently is going to be solo piano with no vocals. So I expect it to have a bit more of a classical feel, but I'm not 100% sure. Could lean more to the progressive side than classical, or it could lean more classical than progressive. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But either way, he's an amazing piano player, so anything he plays will be technically amazing and beautiful or wild or whatever emotion he wants to invoke in us as listeners. So I'll be checking that out out of respect for him and hope that it will be awesome, like I know he's capable of. And last one on my October 17th list is by The Last Dinner Party, and it's called From the Pyre. This is the second album by this band from the UK, and it's indie rock with progressive pop and art rock influences. This is actually an all-female band, which you don't see too often, but there are some out there. And I thought their debut album was very good, but I didn't go back to it too much. If you're a fan of Bent Knee, I think you'll like this. It's kind of that quirky indie rock that's kind of progressive, kind of artsy, like sounds like they've been to music school kind of performances. And I enjoyed the early single I heard here called This Is the Killer Speaking. So yeah, if you like that kind of music, check out The Last Dinner Party with From the Pyre. Now let's take a look at October 24th, another live album. I've been listening to more live albums this year than any year before because Haken put one out, Gentle Giant did their uh, re-release of Playing the Fool, and those two got me kind of excited and rejuvenated on these live albums. So I think I might check this one out by Leprous because I love Leprous. An Evening of Atonement live. Leprous, of course, is a Norwegian progressive metal band, and they're just amazing. I've seen them live and they put on an amazing show. So if I can hear that in audio form, that will be awesome to hear. Hail the Sun is putting out Cut, Turn, Fade Back, the seventh album by this American post-hardcore emo screamo band. They've got some progressive rock, some math rock influences. And I saw them live recently with Between the Buried and Me. Hail the Sun put on an amazing show, and of course, so did Between the Buried and Me. And I honestly think Hail the Sun might be up there as one of the best post-hardcore bands around right now. All the singles from this have been great. I'm really looking forward to this. I love all their albums. They pretty much never miss. So I think if they can keep going on the trajectory they're on, they could like honestly be taking the crowns of post-hardcore and becoming the kings. And on the same day, we have Serge Tankian from System of a Down fame putting out covers, collaborations, and collages, a compilation album by this American artist. It's alternative metal, hard rock, progressive rock are kind of his usual genres, but he sometimes does more acoustic-y things, more jazz things. He can kind of go wherever he wants in terms, sometimes classical. But this is an odds and ends type album. And apparently it features three collaborative songs, one with Deadmau5, one with Bic Runga, and one with Lucas Vital. And it features a few covers and some songs that are collages. I'm not quite sure what the collages means here, but I'm a big System of a Down fan. I saw System of a Down live this year. I also enjoy some of Serge's solo works, so I'll be checking this out, hoping it's among some of his better stuff. I'm more a fan of his rock and metal stuff than I am of his classical or jazz stuff, but I like that he's adventurous. So it'll be interesting if he can kind of blend it all and if he sticks the landing on that. And on the same day, Lars Frederick Froisley is releasing kind of a re-recording. Uh, it's going to be called Quattro Racconti, and Lars Frederick Froisley is a Norwegian progressive rock artist famous from as the keyboard player of Wobbler. And from his Bandcamp, it says Quattro Racconti is a new version of his debut solo album, and this time it's in Italian rather than Norwegian. So that's interesting. He collaborated with Stefano Lupo Gallifi from the legendary band Museo Rosenbach. So he's the vocalist of that Italian progressive rock band. And yeah, so this is a redo. If you liked Fire Foretellinger, that's what it was called. That's what the Norwegian version's called. That album became a great success for him when released in 2023. And when the opportunity for Lars to do one of those songs in Italian came up with Galifi, he did. That was in Posto Sotto il Cielo, if I said that properly. And then Wobbler played a festival in Italy in 2024, and Froisley went to visit Galifi and recorded vocals for the rest of the album. So apparently, the result is stunning according to his own Bandcamp. So if he's patting himself on the back and he has, a high bar for quality and standards, and he's an amazing musician. So if he thinks it's great, I'm assuming it is great. And I really liked the music on Fire for Tillinger, but I wasn't actually so keen on Lars's vocals. So I'm actually thinking this could really make me love that album even more. So I'm kind of excited for it because I thought the music on the Norwegian version was amazing, and then the vocals were kind of just, kind of average, kind of just there. So I think with this strong Italian vocalist, this stuff could be amazing stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. And on October 24th, we've got Big Wreck with the rest of the story, the eighth album by this Canadian alternative rock band. They've got some progressive influences, some blues, some grunge. And I listened to their 7.3 EP that came out in 2023. I thought it was good, but I didn't go back to it much. But I really enjoyed the singles I heard from this new album. So I put it on my list. Ian Thornley's vocals are great. His lead guitars in this band are amazing. So check out the lead guitars on the tracks Believer and Holy Roller. Those are some singles from this album. They've got a bit of a Van Halen vibe to them, especially on Holy Roller, like kind of just fun, wild guitar stuff that I didn't really know they did in this band, but it's very cool. So if you want to hear some alternative rock with some wild guitar, check out the rest of the story by Big Wreck. And gotta support them because they're Canadian, fellow Canadians. On October 24th as well, Psychonaut is releasing World Maker, the third album by this Belgian band, and they are progressive post-metal with atmospheric sludge metal influences. And I've never listened to an album by Psychonaut before, but I did love the singles I heard for this ahead of time. If you're a fan of The Ocean, Cult of Luna, Mastodon, I think you'll like this. Endless Currents has a great riff, great build up throughout the song. Starts out beautiful, peaceful, and hypnotic with clean vocals for the vast majority of the song. Then at the end, it gets really heavy and powerful with harsh vocals. They're on the same label as The Ocean. I think members of The Ocean run their label, so that's probably the closest comparison. If you like The Ocean, then check out World Maker by Psychonaut. Now we've got October 27th, we've got Carphagen with Omni, A Shuffle of Fate, the working tapes. And I don't know if this is like counts as a full album or is like a compilation, but if it is a full album, I think it's their 22nd by Carphagen. They've been really busy putting out a lot of music, sometimes multiple albums in a year. And they're from the Ukraine. It's progressive art rock with new age, symphonic, and neo-prog influences. And it's really Anthony Kalugin is a Ukrainian keyboard player who kind of drives this project. He's very prolific. He's put out many albums under the Carthagin name. He also put some out under the name Sunchild and some out under the name Hogwash and some out under his own name. Probably more projects that I've never heard of too. I wouldn't be surprised. It just seems like this guy's always cranking out music. He's an amazing keyboard player. If you're a fan of classic prog bands like Yes and Genesis, you'll have to check this out because Carthagin is kind of that uh, keyboard-driven prog rock of modern times. And a lot of his albums focus more on keyboards, atmosphere, riffs, and solos on the keyboards. On his Bandcamp, it says, "This is a continuation of the journey, presenting material that will appear on the upcoming Omni LP as Side C, essentially forming Omni Part 3 Suite. I'm deeply grateful for the wonderful feedback on the original Omni album, and I hope you'll enjoy this third chapter just as much." So it's kind of an extension of stuff that he's put out earlier this year, which I enjoyed. But this release is apparently more instrumental in nature, enriched by the inspired contributions of John Hackett on flute, Max Velichko on guitar, Daniel Alien on electric violin, and it also features a powerful ballad, A Shuffle of Eight. So this album has includes almost a 20-minute long instrumental version of the Omni Suite, two exclusive single versions, Whisper from the Past and Unchained, and a rare glimpse into the early demo stage of Omni. Uh, so yeah, sounds like it'll be cool. Probably some amazing keyboard playing. I think I'll check it out. Now let's look at Halloween, October 31st. What's coming out? We've got lots of cool stuff coming out that day. Um, Unprocessed is releasing Angel, the sixth album by this German progressive metal band. They're kind of progressive metalcore, gent, some alternative metal influences. And I enjoyed their last two albums before this, particularly the last one, which I thought was excellent. But I don't think I went back and heard any of their earlier work. But if this one's as good as their last one, I might have to do a deep dive on them. Trivium's releasing an EP called Struck Dead, and they're an American metalcore band, kind of melodic metalcore with thrash metal, heavy metal, progressive metal, alternative influences. And I've always enjoyed Trivium. Never quite made it into my favorite bands list, though. Their last two albums are both very good. I expect this to be enjoyable, but probably not something that's going to be a contender for my year-end top 50 or anything like that. Lunatic Soul is releasing The World Under Unsun, the eighth album by this Polish band. It's progressive art rock with folk, ambient, electronic, and acoustic influences. And this is a side project founded by the Riverside vocalist and bass player Marius Duda. He started this in 2008, and I love Riverside. I love everything Riverside does. I haven't listened as much to Lunatic Soul, but I enjoyed the singles that I heard from this, so I'm looking forward to it since I like Riverside so much. I know this is kind of different. It's not as heavy and it's more ambient and folky and artsy and electronic, that kind of stuff. But I think it'll be good. And Gazpacho is releasing Magic 8 Ball, the 12th album by this Norwegian progressive art rock band with alternative rock and post-rock influences. And I've never listened to an album by Gazpacho, but I've heard good things about them. I listened to the single 8 Ball. It was quirky, it was fun, it was unique. So this sounds like a band I could really get into, so I'm looking forward to this. And then Neil Morse is putting out a singer-songwriter album called Never Been Down This Road Before. Um, don't ask me how many albums he's put out because he's put out so much. It's hard to count. Got a big question mark here. He's, of course, an American singer-songwriter, and this is kind of more of a that kind of album rather than his. Sometimes he does wild progressive rock opera stuff. Sometimes he does like prog rock band kind of albums, and sometimes he does these Christian albums, and sometimes he just does singer-songwriter albums. So this is more of a singer-songwriter album, apparently. And of course, Neil Morse has been in Spock's Beard. He's been in Transatlantic. He has this project called the Neil Morse Band, and he's released two albums under a project called Di Virgilio Morse and Jennings. And this year he put out a great, excellent album under the project called Cosmic Cathedral with some amazing collaborators. He also has many solo albums in different styles, some straightforward singer-songwriter, some prog, some Christian worship music, which I'm not as interested in personally. But yeah, since this one's more of a straightforward singer-songwriter album, I'll check it out, but I must say I prefer his more progressive albums, so I'm not too keen on this, but I like him, so I'll check it out as I respect his music. But I wish he was doing more prog stuff because that's what I really like to hear from him. But if you're a Neil Morse fan, definitely check out Never Been Down This Road. Two more albums to go in this video. I know this video is getting pretty long, but Danheim is releasing Heimford, the ninth album by this Danish band. It's dark Nordic pagan Viking neofolk with ambient and electronic influences. This one's another one on the Season of Mist label, and they've got another band like this that reminds me of this on their label. I listened to it earlier this year called Sowulo. So if you like Sowulo, check out Danheim. Or if you like bands like Heilung and Wardruna, it's kind of in that style of that dark Nordic Viking neo-folk stuff. Uh, Pretty cool sound and not like my favorite style of music or anything. It's not my usual thing, but it's an interesting vibe that these types of bands can conjure up. So it's always kind of interesting. You feel like you're listening to a ritual and it's almost like creepy and insane, but fun. And last on my list is Florence and the Machine with Everybody Scream, the sixth album by this indie rock band from the UK. They've got pop, they've got art rock, soul, alternative, folk, progressive, and gothic influences. And I don't think I've ever listened to a full album by them, but I have checked out the title track here and another single as well called One of the Greats. I enjoyed both of those, so I plan to check it out. And that is it for my October 2025 album release radar. Hope that you heard about something in this video that got you excited that you didn't know about before. Which of these albums are you most excited to hear? Let me know down in the comments. And is anything else coming out in October 2025 that you think I should know about? Also let me know. And if you want to hear my first impressions as these albums come out, I post my first impressions on this stuff as I listen to it usually weekly. So my next video will probably be my top 10 albums of September 2025. And then after that, it'll likely be my first impressions on Thrice, Coheed and Cambria, Big Big Train, Ring Band, Mobius, Motorpsycho, Orbit Culture, Hooded Menace, Taylor Swift, and Times Forgotten on all their new music. So if you want to see that, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and stay in the loop on when I post new videos. And until next time, peace out.